Hi. Hi, everybody. Welcome and welcome back. Week 6 of Seen and Heard Live, our slightly poor step sibling to what we really do at the theater, but enough of a substitute that we can stay connected with each other and with Hartford Stage, which of course means the world to all of us. So I thank you for joining us, well, especially if it's the first time, and for those of you who have joined in previous weeks, we're thrilled you're here. Today we're going to be talking about really two great gifts that the United States of America has given, you could say, to popular culture, and that is the American musical and baseball. So I'm wearing my Red Sox jersey, just have to point that out. Found while cleaning out a closet here since cleaning out closets is one of those things, right, that we all aspire to do during this period. I won't go into more details on that. But before I tell you more about our guests and today's program, Cynthia, my extraordinary partner, our managing director, Cynthia Ryder. Hi, Cynthia.
Hi, Amelia. How are you?
Good. Nice to see you again.
Nice to see you.
Oh, I have to get my heart. I'll do that while
Yes,
you're
I'm wearing my Hartford
talking.
Stage heart pin that Amelia gave me, for those of you who saw that little Zoom exchange. Thank you for joining us here today. I'm a big fan, obviously, of baseball and of new musicals, so this is a great show for somebody like me. Even though we are dark in the theater, there is a lot going on, like this Seen and Heard Live here at Hartford Stage. Our subscriptions are on sale, and thank you so much to all of you who've already invested in us as subscribers for many, many years, and all of our newer subscribers. You can see here on the screen 4 of the titles that we have announced for next year. Returning to Shakespeare with As You Like It, a brand new play called Simona's Search that I love, Angry, Raucous, and Shamelessly Gorgeous, a title that is enough to make you want to come see that relatively new play as well, and Mary Shelley's Frankenstein. So we'd love to have you subscribe. Go online to do that. As you know, it's a very difficult time in our world right now, and so we want to express our sympathy to all of you who are struggling and those of you who are making an incredible contribution to our communities. You know that the arts world is struggling as well, and for those of you who are offering your support, thank you just by listening today. It means a lot to us by subscribing. And if you are able to donate, I want to tell you about 2 great opportunities for Hartford Stage. One is we have a $100,000 challenge. We have a handful of incredible board members and donors who said that if you can raise $100,000, we're going to match it with another 100,000. So if you go on to Hartford Stage .org right now, your dollar can be $2, your $50 will be $100. We're already at $72,000 towards that $100,000 match. So we know we can get there with your help. The other thing is today is the final day of our online auction. We weren't able to party in the paint shop this year, but we do have a great online auction. And I'm going to tell you a couple of my favorite things that I'm not bidding on, but I just might hear this evening. Go in, there's some incredible values on there. One is dinner in New York City at the West Bank Cafe. When I lived in New York in the 1980s, one of my great luxuries was going to the West Bank Cafe when I was in a show that was right across the street. So I love that place. The bidding for tonight's auction item is that Amelia and our guest tonight with Johnny Baseball and their good friend, comedian Lewis Black, comedian, the king of rant, you can have dinner with them. You may know him from The Daily Show. That item has some really exciting bidding, so get in there and keep watching it until 8 o'clock when the bidding will close. We also have one of my favorite things since I've lived in Hartford that I did with Amelia is we went to a Yard Goats game. So later on today, you're going to get to meet Tim Riestall from the Yard Goats. So there's a great baseball package. We missed our opening nights this spring, and they missed their opening day this spring. So you may not think we have a lot in common, but we have a lot in common with our neighbors here in downtown Hartford with the Yard Goats. And lastly, another baseball, we have Loch Lord's private suite at Red Sox Stadium at Fenway. I went to college in Boston, and again, one of my most favorite things was the first time I ever went and sat in the bleachers. And so that's a great experience. That includes tickets and catering, and there's lots of other opportunities. So head on to our website and see if there's anything we could tempt you with to bid. And as always, you can get your own Hartford Heart for a $25 donation, and that's also on the auction site. So thank you for being here tonight, and back over to you, Amelia, for musicals and baseball.
Yes, thank you. And for once this week, I'm going to remember the correct sequence of events, and I will now introduce Scott Bartleson. I will also just add a shout out. Without Scott Bartleson and Rachel Alderman, the entire Hartford stage staff is, of course, crucial to all of these events, but Scott and Rachel are really the co-pilots on this. So thank you. And Scott, give us our Zoom instructions.
Thank you, Amelia, and thanks for tuning in, everyone, tonight yet again. We have over 180 people signed in just now, and a couple more on Facebook. I just want to let everyone know a couple of options that they have tonight to engage with us. The two main features that we use are the chat box. So if you can chat with us, if you have a question that comes up or you want to ask the panelists or Amelia something, please continue to dialogue with us. We are monitoring that the whole time, me and Rachel and other staff members, and we'll bring your questions to the forefront. And you can do the same thing with the Q&A box that you have. So please feel free to use that throughout the night. And because we love to keep these as interactive as possible, we're building community here, and we're so glad you're here. So thanks.
Great, thank you. So the regional theater, the not-for-profit outside of New York theater, is incredibly important to new work development throughout this country. And Hartford Stage has, under Darko Tresnak's extraordinary leadership, had added to the Shakespeare and Tennessee Williams and Ibsen and all its other accomplishments, as well as new plays, the addition of new musicals. So I am a musical theater junkie, a sort of closet musical theater junkie. As a child, my dream was, well, I'll put it this way. I was better at casting even then, and my dream was to grow up one day to play Mama Rose. I did the math of when the next revival of Gypsy would have to happen so that I could play Mama Rose. Luckily for all of us, I'm not on the stage, but Gentleman's Guide and Anastasia are both musicals that came out of Hartford Stage and moved to New York, as you all know. And it's a great legacy that this theater has. I was lucky enough the week before the world shut down, literally the week before, to gather with a group of extraordinary artists and workshop a new American musical called Johnny Baseball. We'll hear more about that in a minute. But a theater like Hartford Stage is crucial to the development of a musical like Johnny Baseball, and we'll talk more to its creators about why these theaters are so important to making great new American works. So since they're our guests, and you know our format by now, we were going to start with a scene, and we were going to start with a scene from Johnny Baseball. But a couple of weeks ago, one of the actors from that workshop, who was also the wonderful Betsy Morgan, who's also a former student and advisee of mine, so we go way back, sent me a photo, a screenshot of 3 brilliant, entertaining women on a Zoom call. It was Betsy and 2 of our other amazing actors from the workshop. I shared this photo with the Johnny Baseball creators, and they were so inspired that they've decided to write a brand new piece on these 3 women. So tonight, or this afternoon, I guess it's still afternoon. So this afternoon, for the first time ever, you will hear and see a scene from a yet to be written, completed work, and called What's Today? So without further ado, I'm going to hand it over to these 3 extraordinary women. I'll tell you more about them when we come back. But over to you 3 gals for the brand new What's Today?
Wait, you're on mute. Can you hear me? Take yourself off mute, bottom left.
Fine. Is that too loud?
You can talk regular.
Sorry, I never Zoomed before.
You're killing it, Karen.
Where's Bonnie? We said 8 o'clock. She was always the one on time.
She's a nurse. She's probably got a lot on her plate right now.
Yeah. How is that hunky? Oh, you go.
No. I was just saying, you look really good.
Oh, please, I am the object of terror. You've never been a good liar.
I'm working on that.
Oh,
here she is.
wow. Look at her. I haven't seen her since I was in New York like 9 years ago. She looks good. Hot even.
Yeah, she kind of perked up there for a while. I didn't hate that.
Remember at college? God, that girl could eat.
You. I can hear you.
Bonnie!
Sorry, I'm late.
Are you kidding? 2 minutes. I can only imagine what your day was like.
Here's what we're not going to do, all right? We are not going to talk about my day. I need a distraction. Tell me about your day.
Well, it was kind of amazing. The 5 of us are inside all day, every day, and we are learning a whole new way of being together.
That sounds awesome.
I just love them so much. But Jerry, I want to hear about your day. Just you and Tony and that view of the river.
And nothing to do but...
Oh, eat.
Yeah, it's kind of amazing, except, well, we're getting a divorce.
Holy shit.
When did you decide that?
March 8th.
Wait, wasn't that...
Yes, the night before the self-isolation was announced.
Oh, honey, that's horrible.
He was cute.
Yeah. That was important for 6 months.
What happened?
You know, he was out of work for all that time, and I was doing everything, and things were said. And
But I saw on Facebook he got a Broadway show.
yeah, his dream.
Mrs. Doubtfire, right?
Yeah, but they had to shut it down.
Well, they're going to bring that back, aren't they?
We don't know. We don't know anything.
Right. It's also, we don't know anything. We don't know who's sick. We don't know who isn't. We don't know algebra. I am supposed to be homeschooling quadratic formula. What the hell? How does that work? Is it English? So now my kids are finding out that mommy's not that smart.
Oh, mommy's pretty smart. You had like a 3.0, right?
Actually, 3.4.
Oh, come on.
Nice. Nice going.
Oh, that girl is gone. Now I forget everything I ever knew. I haven't read a book since Teddy was born, and that was 19 years ago.
Hey, don't beat yourself up. I don't know algebra either. All we can do is put one foot in front of the other and try to get through this thing.
Right. The only thing we can do is gather together with our loved ones and follow our president.
Wait, really?
Well, if this isn't a time for us to all stick together and rally around the flag, then when is?
Wow. It's so good to see you guys.
Yeah, it's so good for us to be together. From the day we 3 moved into Wayland House.
We had a washer dryer.
Maytag. We were the envy of the world.
Those were awesome days.
Hey, are you okay?
No, I am not okay.
I was late for the call.
Yeah, weird, but like you can be late once every 20 years. We forgive you.
I was late because I was holding a hand and she didn't want me to let go. My shift was over and I didn't want to leave. I didn't want to leave. Her name was Jean.
And you'll have to return for another installment. That's as much as the guys have written, right? So just a Zoom bow for Gina Milo and Kirsten Wyatt and Betsy Morgan, three awesome women who I had the time of my life with during that last week when life seemed relatively normal in New York City. So we're so glad you're here with us. And we'll come back to all three of you and in the, and hear more of your perspective on all of this. I want to now bring on, thank you. I want to now bring on Rob Reale, Willie Reale, and Rick Dresser. In the chat function, Rachel will be highlighting some of their credits for you. So I didn't have to take up too much time singing their praises, since we have Tony nominee, MacArthur winner, Emmy Awards, and other extraordinary accomplishments with these three. So hello there. Hi, Rob. Hi, Willie. Welcome. And there's Mr. Dresser. Hello, sir. I see. I want to point out, the appropriate set decor for Monsieur Dresser's Zoom office. I assume this is always there, Rick, or is this just for us right now?
No, this is where I worship every day. And, if we were closer, you could probably see who was batting.
Wow.
It was the first hitter who had a shift put on, because he always, left-handed, always hit the ball to the right side. And it is Ted Williams. That's how I start my day.
That's awesome. So, guys, we didn't get to hear a scene from Johnny Baseball because inspiration struck you all, and you've decided to create something new for these three fabulous women. Let's start by talking a little bit about Johnny Baseball. What is Johnny Baseball? Where does it come from? And how can Hartford Stage be a part of its development? Where are you with the work? Anybody, jump in. It's a cocktail party, and you've all met, so I'm not introducing you to each other. And we'll bring on more friends soon, but just jump in.
We've had a long, steady path forward with Johnny Baseball, and it came out of a moment of triumph for Willie and Rob, and deep and everlasting despair for me. They are Yankee fans, and really the genesis of this goes back to 2003, when in the 11th inning of the 7th game of the playoffs, Tim Wakefield, who'd had a great series, gave up a home run to Aaron Boone, and my life has not been the same since. But they are both Yankee fans. They came to me and they said, anything that inspires passion this deep can be a musical.
I was at that
I
baseball.
told them to get out of my house.
I was at that baseball game with a friend of mine called Larry Nathanson's cousin was Bud Selig's doctor. And Bud Selig was the commissioner of baseball. And so he used to get great seats for all the playoff games. And so he had a strip of 6 tickets, and I was invited along with 5 Red Sox fans. And I knew all these guys, and I love all these guys. And it was 5-2 in the 8th inning, and the Sox were up, and it looked like the game was sealed. And I looked down the row, and they were all sort of davening, just nervous as could be. And I said, guys, I think you got this one. And they turned to me in a slow burn, and as if to say, don't you know what we've been through? And of course, Aaron Boone hit that homer as Rick described. And the next day I called Rick up, and I said, I asked him how his son Sam was doing. Rick, you want to bring that?
Well, I watched with Sam, and I had, you know, he was raised in the faith, and so we had watched every inning of all of this, and we knew that we were going to win because we believed that life was fair. And when Aaron Boone hit that home run, one of us started truly sobbing uncontrollably, and I have a pact that I'm not going to reveal which one of us it was. He was 13 at the time. And
by the way, on the subway ride home on the D train with those 5 Red Sox fans, I was not in any position to gloat. I just was with them as friends. But there were more than 2 of them that were blinking back tears on that ride. And it was that kind of passion that Rick and I discussed, and that was the genesis of the musical, which as we've been chasing for quite some time, and we think we're getting a bit closer to, thanks to Hartford Stage and determination.
Awesome. So Rob and Willie, you guys are related, I believe, right?
It's true. It's true.
And you've worked together before. So the genesis of this was Willie and Rick, and then we went to Rob. Is that how? And what was?
Willie and I.
How did it start?
We've always been baseball Yankee fans, and there's a sort of, you know, there's a bond, I think, among Yankee and Red Sox fans. Everybody recognizes there's respect. There was that great Jeter commercial a while back for Gatorade or Nike or somebody. But the interesting thing about when Willie and Rick conceived of this, and when we first started writing, was the writing happened early, and then the Sox won, and so the end would have changed completely. And so it was, we thought we were done. We thought, well, that's that, the curse is over. And then we realized they may have actually written us an ending, which was when we got back to it again and started writing in earnest.
Yeah,
So,
we started
go ahead, Rick, sorry.
We started out with the premise being the curse of the Red Sox. And we thought, well, what can we do now that the curse is over? And we didn't have an ending. It gave us an ending. But one thing, I've not written musicals before. But one thing about writing a musical, I don't know how people do it if they don't really, really like the people they're collaborating with, because I saw a lot more of Rob and Willie than I did, for example, my wife or my son for many years. And I actually, you know, people started to think that I actually was one of the Reali brothers. I sort of think of myself as like Zeppo, you know, the one that people don't really remember. No, we spent a phenomenal amount of time together creating this, and it's been through so many incarnations. In my closet over there, I'm not going to show you, but there are drafts of Johnny Baseball to the ceiling, and these guys have written such amazing songs that are not in the show now. There are,
right.
Yeah,
there are more songs in this out of the show than there are in this show.
Yes, absolutely.
So what? How do you make the decisions about what's working? You've had two productions of it so far over the years, and we're hopefully all together working towards another one. But it's really changed over the years, both because the Red Sox have changed. I mean, when you first wrote it, had the curse been broken, or you'd started?
We started it before the curse had been broken. But, you know, you also have to remember that when we started writing this, we were children. And so it's been a process of becoming adults and sort of honing our craft through the years. And it has gone through profound changes. But, you know, we've all, like any writers, there are innumerable projects that we've all walked away from during the years. There has always been something huge and powerful pulling us back to Johnny Baseball. We've all gone off and done other things, but getting back to Johnny Baseball is why, for me, and I think for Rob and Willie, the workshop that we did with these amazing women in New York was so moving, because we were back. We felt like we were back where we should be. And we could see the finish line. We were close. We've been very careful with this musical not to peak too soon. We like to spread it out decade after decade, and so you've always got something to look forward to.
It's like a Leonard Cohen song. It just it takes it's just going to take a while, but then when you get there, it's really an extraordinary thing.
It's a Leonard Cohen song with laughs.
There's a rare thing. So Rob and Willie, Sandrick, you guys collaborated on a little show that many of us just love called A Year with Frog and Toad. And we have, I think, Mark, I think you're here. So we have a special guest, as we like to do in this new format, this new not quite theater, and it's not theater light. And there's Mark Lindbaker, ladies and gentlemen. He made it. Thank you.
Hello, Mark.
So there's so much history here. I don't have to introduce anybody to anybody else. Gina, have you met Mark?
Do I know Mark? My little girl held his hand all the way from 168th Street. We love Mark.
Just to be clear, they're neighbors. There's nothing odd about that story.
I was going to say, we have breakfast together every morning.
Let's keep this. We're keeping this. It's a family viewing is our hope for.
I did Les Mis with his wife. So it's all good.
Oh my God! And Betsy did Les Mis of the main revamped, really important national tour.
Yeah.
So there's a whole. We could just do songs from Les Mis, but let's not. Let's skip Les Mis for now. No offense. I mean, I cry, Betsy, when you sang "I Have a Dream." I dream a dream. I wept. But so Mark, you were in the original Frog and Toad on Broadway.
Yes, indeed.
But your history with these guys, and dare I say, here we go, pictures, yay. Thank you, Todd. Thank you, Scott. I love it. But you guys go way back before that as well.
We go way back. We go way back doing work and just sharing life and having good times and bad.
There was a whole period of you and Lou Black and the West Bank, and so whoever comes to dinner with all of us will get really lucky and hear all these stories.
I was very happily a part of the first workshop of Johnny Baseball.
That's right.
And I think it's a great project. It's like a Greek tragedy. It plays that large. It's about the story of a people, of an entire people played out on a baseball field, which is what baseball is.
Right. What's in terms of Frog and Toad? What was the journey for that? Was that in any way similar to Johnny Baseball? It wasn't. You guys didn't work on it for quite as long, I don't think. It maybe got.
It was the opposite journey.
Mm-hmm.
We wrote it in 4 months, and then it got workshopped, and then it went to Minneapolis, and then to Broadway. We just knew it. We just saw it. Sometimes you get it right away, and sometimes it takes a little time to get it, and sometimes it takes a decade to get it.
Right. Scott, are there questions? Should I not be monopolizing all these wonderful people?
There are. People are curious about a little bit more about Johnny Baseball. Like, what's the plot line? What are some of the characters like? What story you're trying to tell?
It's about 3 nuns.
I was just going to say. That's exactly right. These 3 wonderful women play 3 very wacky Irish nuns. So that's only part of it, though. So over to you guys.
Well, I think that, growing up in New England, the curse of the Red Sox was sort of this kind of comforting myth that when the Red Sox sold Babe Ruth to the Yankees, that they were cursed forever. And as I got a little bit older and did a little more investigating, it was clear that was just a very convenient story, and that the real curse was that the Red Sox were the last team in baseball to sign an African-American player, and that was in 1959, which was 12 years after Jackie Robinson. So the story is really, it's fictional characters coupled with real characters, like Babe Ruth is in it. But it's really a story about race and America and baseball since 1919. So when we started doing this, started writing this, if we had been smarter individuals, we never ever would have plunged into something so big and complicated and fraught. But that seriously is why we have stayed with it, because it is such a worthy story. It is such a story that we feel, particularly now, really needs to be told. If that sounds earnest, it is not an earnest show at all. It is a very human story, but it really came from a sort of an awareness of the fact that sports are not different. They're not divorced from American life. They are a reflection and a part of American life. And that's the story we're telling with Johnny Baseball.
Anything else to add there? I mean, I will say that the sort of the synchronicity, the sort of lining up of what happens in baseball and what happens in the country is incredibly moving to listen to and to watch. We'll get to hear a little bit of, we'll hear some of the lyrics of Johnny Baseball at the end of this, so stay with us. I want to just throw into the mix too that Mark, you're Connecticut, you're Hartford's own.
I am I grew up in Wethersfield, Connecticut.
And I believe you did like mime in the streets of Hartford. Am I outing a closet mime here?
Before mime became a dirty word.
Exactly. A four-letter word still. Yep. I want to do a shout out when we talk, as Rick is talking about the politics of baseball, and there's also the politics of theaters and communities, that your mom was kind of an extraordinary fixture in creating a theater that broke down a lot of barriers in Hartford.
Indeed.
So I just really want to celebrate your family history as we celebrate Johnny Baseball as well.
Thank you. Both my mother and my father, William Nelson Baker and Joan Baker, they created a theater called the Open Stage in Hartford. It was a mixed race company, colorblind casting, at a time when that was a very, very strong political statement, and did a lot of work in Hartford in those years.
So,
Baker was a great lady. I knew her and I was proud to know her.
Yeah,
thank you.
Indeed. Mark, was your dad an actor?
Neither of my parents made their living doing that, but my father was an actor and a director, and my mother met my father dancing in a show that he was directing at University of Missouri.
We don't approve of that anymore.
Oh, we have Mark.
Meeting is okay. Meeting is all right.
We have Mark. We have proof.
So just sort of any story around best and worst moments in creating new musicals and appearing in a new musical, the song at the last minute, I will say that even this scene, we were joking before we started today that it felt a little like we were running Saturday Night Live, since we didn't know what scene we were going to read. And I have a feeling it's a little a taste of being in previews with a new musical. But what are some highs and lows of that experience for any of you?
The highs for me, the best part for me, almost always when you're out of town and you are tasked with replacing a song, and typically in the next day or so. And Willie and I will, hopefully find a piano somewhere in the hotel or nearby, wherever the rehearsal space is, and be there late at night or first thing in the morning, and then coming in with something that you're reasonably happy with. And sometimes on, those happy occasions when you feel like you get it right, that feels great. And there's nothing quite as, I don't think the Pistons fire on that level creatively at any other time working on it, when all the creatives are surrounding you and you feel like you're just feeding off all the energy. Everybody's rooting for everybody, and you come in with a new song and everybody wants it to succeed.
So now when you say out of town, Can
Yeah.
we talk about that? What is, right? We're using sort of New York lingo. You're not in the city, you're out of town. And so of course I'm going to do a plug for, for Hartford Stage and for all the other
Yeah.
great theaters that are not in New York. Why does out of town matter?
Well, you're also, it's the whole experience is sort of theater camp wherever you happen to be. So with Mark and doing Frog and Toad in Minneapolis in whenever that was, 2002 or 3, we're there in the summer and we're changing songs out before we come back, before the run there for 6 weeks, and then coming back to the New Victory in New York. And so you're just, you're eating, sleeping, drinking that show. It's all
Right.
there is in front of you.
Well,
And you're changing it.
And being out of town, you have the opportunity to work and put out work and hear it in live in the room with you, so that you can understand from an audience whether or not it plays. And there's no way to know that unless you hear it with the people in the room. I mean, Rob and I have written songs, even in a workshop, when the people in the room, you can feel the energy in the room. And we've cut a song once from Johnny Baseball before, like, and about 64 bars in, I just looked at Rob and he looked at me and I just went, and that was the first time we heard it, and that's wrong, get it out. And we went back across the street to write the tune. And yeah, I mean, that's just, there's a safety in working out of town that you do not have working in town, because once the New York Times comes, you're either a winner or a loser, and it's a thumbs up or a thumbs down, and a thumb turning sideways doesn't get to play.
Not so helpful.
And I'm gonna make a plug for theaters outside of town at this point, because the resources that are required just to hear a musical, just to put it up, are enormous. The technical resources, the musical resources, the actors, what it takes just to hear it, and then to hear it in front of an audience is enormous. And if you don't have the chance to develop outside of that commercial venue on Broadway, if you don't have that opportunity to develop, then you don't have the time it takes to bake the pie.
Right. Kirsten, what were you you were Miss Wyatt.
Yes. No, I just wanted to share a little anecdote about singing a song out of town.
I know this song.
Yes. When I've been fortunate enough to be with Johnny Baseball for a few years, and I did the production at ART up in Boston, another wonderful regional theater. And we were really, that was a time, if I recall, we were adding songs, we were taking songs out. There was new script material every day, and I had a song, and I'll never forget, it was, I think, noon, and Willie came up and he was like, "We have a song for you and we want it to go in tonight." And I was like, okay. And so we rehearsed it, and the guy who was playing our Babe Ruth, it went in that night, but only because the guy who was playing Babe Ruth had a prop that was a Cracker Jack box.
Oh.
And on the back of the Cracker Jack box were my lyrics in case I went up. And that was awesome. It's one of my
awesome.
I didn't know that.
Yes.
I do that.
Yes.
I did sketch comedy at the West Bank with Jody Pietro many moons ago, where Lou would do the intro, right? And we figured out where to put lines on all sorts of props, just hiding scripts in all sorts of places as material came in. That's great. Scott, are there more questions?
There are. We got a question for Rob and Willie about their path to collaboration and how they began working together.
From infancy, right?
You'll need to talk to our mom.
Rob, you want to start?
Yeah, I mean, the question we always get, a lot of siblings say, how can you possibly work with your brother? And for us, and we were in very different places, and Willie called me up and said, did you ever consider writing a musical? Which I had not. I was playing jazz clubs and he was acting in New York. And so we got together and started it and had a great time doing it. But one of the things you realize early on is that you've got to shorthand as far as your sense of humor and what you think is acceptable and what is not. You know, where the bar is for us is almost always at the same place. There are very few times where we disagree about whether something is sort of awful or whether it's probably right. I would say, Willie, Rob.
Yeah, I'm with you on that, Rob. I would also, I mean, so back in the day when we were in our early 20s, I began to write, and Rob was beginning to compose a little bit for the jazz band that he was playing in Phoenix. And I went out there on vacation for a week or so, and we took his car up to the Red Rock country, and we stayed in Bogo Pfeiffer's Slide Rock Inn. We had a case of beer and about $40 beyond that, and that was our budget to see if we could write songs together. And we wrote 3 songs. They were, and we thought they were really good. And so when he came to New York, we started writing together. Those songs were not good, but we discovered through that how to write a better one. And so, and we've written a few pretty good ones over time.
Yeah.
Thank
Yeah,
you,
I just want
guys.
to say something about their collaboration, and it relates to something we're going to do tonight, which is when we were doing this show in Williamstown. There was something at the end of the show that was like, it was working, but it wasn't working as well as it could have worked. And just sort of, in this almost unconscious way, at least apparently, they came up with the game of baseball, which is the most satisfying end to the show. But it's like, relating it to your question about the importance of out of town, out of regional theaters, that it was so important that putting that song in was truly exhilarating. And it wasn't fraught with how is a critic going to judge it. It was only about how do we make the show better. And there's such incredibly positive energy. And I have to say, the workshop that we did with you, Amelia, in New York, it was the same thing. It was like, how do we make it better? We're not worried about anything else. We don't care about anything else. How do we make the show better? And these guys work incredibly quickly. And so that's a big part of how the show evolved. It's evolved in, when we get back to it, we work quickly. And then we retreat to our corners for 12 years, and then we come back.
And as you know, Amelia, you get the thing, like what Rick is talking about, the game of baseball, the song existed, and we knew it was going to stay. We knew it was that kind of sort of uplifting kind of.
And we're going to hear the lyrics at the end of this, so just as a teaser. But go ahead, Rob. I'm sorry.
But additionally, we were trying to figure out a way to plan something earlier in the show that we might hear there, but that was relevant and important and musically would weave in. And so I was on with Willie, trying to figure out what those couplets might be with our music director, Wendy, and we're, racing back and forth to Williamstown and finally got it right. We felt like, oh yeah, now this works. But what happens is now that song is better. So some of the things that come before it, we feel like, well, now they're at about 80%. Now that has to come up now to get to where this is. And so it's always this sort of balancing act of, well, the best thing has to be the new standard. So we better get the rest of it up here, which is what's so beautiful about Out of Town or Hartford or Philadelphia.
You buy a new sofa, you buy a new sofa, and then you got to change the drapes.
Yes.
Makes sense. It's why I don't touch anything in my home. It's just safer. We have another baseball fan to bring on. Tim Restall, who is the CEO of the Hartford Yard Goats. So here we go.
Whoa.
Hartford. I had the best time of my life at the stadium just down the street. So Tim, we gotta figure out how to do all of this together, because just as we're not opening, you're not opening. So we're glad you could join us, Tim.
Absolutely. Absolutely. We were supposed to have a game today, but let's not play baseball. I'd much rather be here joining you guys today than playing baseball. And I'm trying to figure out how I change my my couch in my living room now after this conversation. Absolutely. How you guys doing?
Good.
Good, Tim.
Great.
Good.
We love being down the street from you. We just love having the yard goats in the neighborhood. So, but you guys are not a Red Sox or a Yankees affiliate. For some reason, you're Colorado.
We are. So how it works in minor league baseball is a little weird, is that we're affiliated with the Rockies, meaning our players are Colorado Rockies. Employees, basically prospects, which means absolutely nothing in the Northeast. When you have Red Sox fans, I'm a Red Sox fan. There's Mets fans, there's Yankees fans. And actually, when we became affiliated with the Rockies, they sent me a very nice folder as a thank you. And it was 2007 National League Championship. And I actually called them and I said, thank you so much for this folder. And this was 2015 when we became partners. So they're like, oh, it's no big deal. I'm like, no, really, thank you. And they're like, why? I'm like, because I'm a Red Sox fan. And because you guys lost in 07, the Red Sox won. So it's, it's funny. I often joke with the Rockies when we talk because I compare things to Fenway Park and then obviously all the greats with the Red Sox that have gone through the time. So it's, even though we're affiliated with, I'm a Red Sox fan, but I also have a lot of respect for the Yankees and the Mets just by working with those organizations and having their prospects come through Hartford. So.
Well, and there's just the first time I went to Fenway, first and last time my son let me go with him, I got all excited because wandering around Fenway, I kept saying, this is what the Globe must have been like in Shakespeare's time, which I think is probably true in terms of just the energy, but it meant that my son never let me go to a game with him again. So there was a price to be paid.
That might be true, Amelia, but I think that you're probably the only person who ever went into Fenway Park and thought that.
I bet I'm not. I disagree. I'm going to turn us now to reading. I am going to ask us all, we're going to be joined by a few more community members. I do love this tradition, and I know it, yay! Let me introduce the rest of our readers because I've got to go down the list because I'll mess up otherwise. But that's RJ and his sister Ava, right, who go way back with us to lots of Christmas Carol productions. And we've got Samantha Donnelly, I believe. Yay, Samantha, wonderful to see you. And we're going to have all of you panelists reading as well. And Rachel Alderman, we want you to read as well. So we've got everybody here. And what we're going to read are the lyrics. So imagine this all set to music. It's the end song of Johnny Baseball. I will disappear and let you guys take it away. So here we are.
The game of baseball. There's a game that people play from Jacksonville to Nome. You can hear the players say, you get on base, I'll bring you home.
It's the game of baseball on a perfect diamond on a breezy summer day. It's the costly error or the timely hitting or the one that got away.
It's watching extra innings when you ought to be in bed. It's the single you remember when you put your team ahead. It's a kid inside the classroom hitting homers in his head. It's the game of baseball.
It's the game of baseball on a chilly evening in the middle of the fall. It's a hard hit grounder. It's a little squibber. It's a questionable call.
It's leading off at first as you look to get a jump. It's trying to be patient as you're working through a slump. It's screaming at a manager who's screaming at the ump. It's the game of baseball.
We are of a nation who promises the chance to reach for something greater and hopefully advance.
Baseball and the nation meant to be the same. Everybody's country, everybody's game.
It's a 2-out single. It's a free run homer. It's a double up the line. It's a blazing fastball or a nasty slider. It's picking up the sign.
It's the sound of people cheering through the window of a bar. It's sitting in the driveway with the game on in the car.
It's partly who we want to be and partly who we are. We are of a nation that promises the chance to reach for something greater and hopefully advance.
Baseball and the nation, meant to be the same. Everybody's country, everybody's game. It's the game of baseball.
You get on base.
I'll bring you home.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. A little spontaneous a cappella moment. You guys are amazing. Thank you all for reading that with us. I'll remind you about, before we go to our toast and bring everybody else on, I want to remind you about our auction, which closes tonight at 8. So this is my shameless, whatchamacallit, I'm spieling here.
Plug.
Thank you for the word. I'm like, I'm all verklempt from the song. I just like all, and so just do that. I'm going to also mention that next week's Seen and Heard, we're going to honor all our volunteers, all the folks who make Hartford Stage run that are not the staff or the audience, who are all those other people who help us. The board, our neighborhood ambassadors, our education ambassadors, our ushers. So, and a call out to all of you, if you volunteered at a theater at any point in your life, we'd love to hear from you, because we'll have a lot of stories about how much it's meant to you and how much it means to these institutions and to this craft that people volunteer in the building and on the boards and in the staff and so forth. So as we gather for the toast, we're going to start bringing people on, and we welcome you all. I love this community so much. Tonight's toast is a little bit different. It's a little more somber, because we want to honor a dear friend of Hartford Stage that we lost last week. So, and the best person to speak of that on our staff is Scott Bartleson. So I'm going to invite Scott on to lead the toast in memory of one of our very, very generous Stage 1 board members. So I'll thank all of you at the end of the toast, but to say, in good Jewish tradition, right, the joy and the grief, they go together. So, and maybe also in the Greek tradition and in theater and in baseball. I need a beer. Right? So, Scott, over to you. So tell us about Brendan, please.
Thanks, Melia. Yeah, we want to share the life of a board member we lost last week. His name was Brendan Howes. He was a Stage 1 member. Stage 1 is a young professionals board that we have at Hartford Stage. But Brendan, I'm actually going to share a photo with everyone right now as well. Brendan actually started, has been a part of our community at Hartford Stage for a couple years. He started as a Trinity 360 intern with us, where he worked in various departments. He worked on our gala and different productions, and also on some education programs. And then a few years after he graduated from Central Connecticut State University, he was really adamant about staying involved in Hartford Stage. He loved the theater, and he applied to our Stage 1 Young Professional Board. And we immediately had to make sure that he was accepted into this program, because he was one of our most passionate and most largest advocates for making sure that the next generation of theater goer was coming to Hartford Stage. And he really helped us grow our 20 and 30-year-old Stage Pass program. He always attended every Stage Pass party that we threw. I had such a good conversation with him about how we grow the program, how we make sure that people know about the theater in Hartford, and that and how much it can bring to folks. I was in conversation with his girlfriend Meredith last week, and she mentioned how he would often turn down things to make sure that he had enough time to contribute to Hartford Stage. And so we're all deeply saddened right now with this serious loss. And we just wanted to take a moment to really honor his contribution to the theater and within our community tonight. So I'd love to ask everyone to just have a brief pause for Brendan. Thank you so much. I know that he would be viewing tonight and be so excited to hear about this piece. And so thank you all so much. So the toast tonight is really in his honor. So Amelia?
Yeah, so to Brendan, to the memory of Brendan, and if anything ties baseball, theater, and even these Zoom webinars, is the appreciation for each other coming together and for community. So to this extraordinary Hartford Stage community, thank you, Brendan, for all you gave us. Thank you, all of you on Johnny Baseball. Thank you to Mark. Thank you to Mark's parents. Thank you to the communities that you're all making and supporting. And we'll see you, I hope, next week at Hartford Stage, Seen and Heard Live. All right. Thank you. L'chaim. L'chaim.
Here.
Brendan.
Here. To Brendan. Thank you all.
Thank you, Amelia.
Thank you. Thank
We'll
you
see
all
next
so
week,
much.
everybody.
I'll stay and wave you all off. So say
It's
hello.
so good to see your faces. Yes.
Thank you for joining us.
Rick, Willie, Rob, thank you so much. And Gina and Betsy and Kirsten, you guys are amazing.
Love you.
Grateful to see you all.
Love to you, Meredith.
Thanks for having us.
To Meredith, thank you, Meredith. Thank you for joining us. We're thinking of you. We're thinking of you.
Thank you so much for this. It was really nice.
He gave everyone so much, Meredith. So we're here. You have family with all of us.
Yeah, thank you so much. I look forward to attending
We'll be together soon. Somehow we will all be in a space and we'll be able to actually physically hug you instead of all this virtual stuff. So
Thank you so much.
all right. Thank you all so much.